Hello, and welcome to another episode of Groom Cave. On today's segment of Polished Flavors, we'll explore the parallels between internal and external growth. I had the pleasure of having some extraordinary gentlemen with me today. My brother Deshawn Marshall and Executive Bourbon Specialist, Mr. David Neeley, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Deshawn.
How y'all doing? I'm Deshawn Marshall. Consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm wide range in a lot of things, but anything that comes to developing yourself as far as mentally, physically, emotionally, even communication-wise, that's what I'm here for.
So my name is David Neeley. I'm originally from Macon, Georgia. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina now. I'm a financial strategist and an executive bourbon steward.
Yes, sir. And today, we got in front of us 3 bottles of Uncle Nearest. I'm really excited about this segment. Mr. David, can you tell us about these bottles right here?
Absolutely. And I love the theme that you're talking about. You said internal and external development. Yeah. So the Uncle Nearest story, as it is today, begins in 2016. Founder and president of Uncle Nearest, Ms. Fawn Weaver, read a news article out of the New York Times that talked about Uncle Nearest, and she took the baton, introduced herself to the family, developed this opportunity, and what we have in front of us now is a manifestation of some serious internal work, some vision by her and the rest of the all-woman leadership team at Uncle Nearest, is doing some amazing things in the industry. We have 3 bottles in front of us today. We're going to go in order of proof as we taste them, along with our conversation. The 1884 is the lowest proof that we have on the bar today. It's a 93 proof here. The 1856 is 100 proof, and the straight rye whiskey, which is a gorgeous bottle of rye, is also 100 proof. So we'll go in that order today. Now, you guys are whiskey drinkers already, is that right?
I have dabbled, yeah.
You have dabbled?
Yeah, I've dabbled. Yeah, I'm coming in green, so whatever you're teaching today, I'm learning.
We'll do a little bit of development then through the mechanics. So we'll walk through how to taste the whiskey, maybe even why we're doing it that way versus drinking whiskey. 2 different things. So, sure. Yeah, it's open.
So as we get into this first bottle of 84, tell us some things that we should experience as a beginner or as a new drinker of whiskey.
Sure thing. You're going to start from the inside and work out. All right. So the first drink is going to be here, and here. All right. So the 1884 is named for the year that Uncle Nearest and Jack Daniel perfected the Lincoln County process. Now, whiskey is already being made at the time through the concept of manifest destiny. A lot of Pennsylvania Scots had the financial incentive to cross the Appalachian and settle in Kentucky, land of tomorrow, by the natives who lived there, who were displaced from there. But anyway, so they're making this whiskey, and they're, through happenstance, we're not sure exactly why they did it. There are a few stories out there, a few legends out there as to why the settlers in Kentucky began to put whiskey into barrels, corn whiskey into barrels. But by the time we get around to 1856, whiskey is all across America being sold down into New Orleans and all the way up into New York. What happens in Tennessee in 1856, these 2 men get together, Jack Daniel and Uncle Nearest, and perfect the Lincoln County process that removes some things called congeners and esters, chemical compounds, naturally occurring chemical compounds in the whiskey that removes certain scents and flavors and give, in my opinion, a really distinctive taste to Tennessee whiskey, certainly a very distinctive definition that makes Tennessee whiskey a subset of bourbon. It is bourbon, it's a subset. In 1884, after all this work had been done, starting in 1856 when they perfect the process, in 1884, Uncle Nearest retired from making whiskey. Jack moves his operations down to Lynchburg, Tennessee, where they are today. So as we sip this, the mechanics, nostril to nostril, because you can't smell it, you can't taste it. What sense do you get out of this? Did it evoke any memories? Grandma's house?
Definitely gives me a little grandma's house.
Okay. Ripe fruit on the table is when I say grandma's house. That's what I'm thinking. Ripe apples.
Like I was gonna say, it smells like an apple crisp type.
Apple crisp. Look at that. Any other scents?
It got a little cinnamon to it.
Okay. We men, we always smell cinnamon.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah, it's in everything. Yeah.
All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, we take a small sip. This is sipping versus drinking. We take a very small sip, let it flow over your tongue, down across the bottom teeth, and down your throat. See what sensations you get.
I got a little tingle in the back, but it glides over the front of the tongue. Yeah.
Same. It went from the back. You feel a little burn. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a really alcohol drinker like that, but feel a little burn in the back. I mean, from the front to the back.
So David, explain to us about notes.
Yeah. So you're talking about flavor notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what should we be experiencing when we're drinking this as far as notes?
What you should be experiencing is your own memories and your own relationship with the whiskey. So, but now at the same time, you're also highly suggestible. When I said grandma's house, you said apple crisp. If I had said oranges, you might have said I do smell some citrus. Those flavors that you smell may not necessarily be the ones that you taste. So, sipping and tasting is when you slow down enough to let those memories rise to the surface. That's what makes this whiskey so enjoyable. Best enjoyed on a front porch at your own home where you watch the grass grow.
And what I think is cool about it too is you say grandma's house, you have a different memory of your grandma's house. I have a different memory of mine. You know, it's just, I can just picture being in the house, right? It wasn't so far specific down to the food. It was just, I visioned being there and being around the plastic on the sofas and stuff like that, and my uncles and them coming in. So I just got the memories of being around, and you got the memories of what grandma's cooking. You know what I mean?
I mean, y'all say something like grandma's cooking, but I kind of look at it like from a cologne perspective. Like everything, it triggers a memory, like reminiscence.
Okay.
So, to me, in my opinion, like I always try to tell guys, control your aroma. Even in your house, you control your aroma. The reason why is because it triggers a smell. So no matter where you go, that person to think of you at any time. Now you can play that at a little dark side a little bit, because I want you to remember me at all times. So it's kind of like what you're saying with this. If I, give you this, and you have it at the right place, at the right time, with the right aroma, you're gonna always remember me. And I left a mark on you.
I mean, it's great that we're talking about grandma's house, right? So we're talking about development from grandma's house, like who you were at grandma's house, probably internally. That's an anchor point, right? Good, bad, or ugly, that's an anchor point. And that's somewhere that you have hopefully grown from.
Yeah. So when we're talking about tasting and notes, I think of just like certain rules. What are some of the rules that go behind making a bourbon?
In 1964, May 5th, 1964, America put into place something, an act that codified bourbon as America's whiskey, and they gave about 5 different definitions. You put me on the spot. Hopefully I'll remember them.
We'll punch them in for you.
1, bourbon can be made anywhere in America. You can literally make bourbon in Hawaii and the territories, by the way. So it's got to be made in America. The second one is that it has to be put into the bottle at no less than 80 proof. It can be higher than that, but no less than 80 proof. It has to be stored in new charred oak containers, not barrels. I mean, it could be a box of oak that's been charred, but most of the time they put them into barrels, right? It's put in the barrels. There is no time frame on stored. So as soon as that that clear distillate comes off the still and touches a new charred oak container, meets all the other definitions, it's bourbon.
Okay.
One of the other bourbon definitions is that it has to be at least 51% corn. I mean, it can be more than that. It could be in the 70s, and some bourbons are in the 70s with that. But it has to be at least 51% corn. Another technical definition is that when it comes off that still we're talking about, it can't be any more than 160 proof. That's pretty high. That's pretty much poison, right? But it can't go into the barrel. So it comes off the still, no more than 160 proof. And when it goes into the barrel, it can't be any more than 125 proof.
And I would get into, I guess, another bottle. Sean, give me a rule that you've placed on yourself or has been placed on you that kind of helped you get to where you are you know, with these rules, bourbon finds its identity. So give me a rule that's helped you find your identity to where you are today.
The way you do one thing is the way you do all things. I stand on that principle because, believe it or not, a lot of the things that we do stem from our childhood. Yeah. So, like how we were talking and having a conversation earlier, when it came to money or when it comes to the decisions that we tend to make, whether they're positive or negative, I really don't like to play good or bad because that's bias.
Yeah.
But positive or negatives, it all stems from the way we do one thing is the way we do all things. So that's a principle that I stand on.
Yeah, I like that. And I think for me, one thing that I've always tried to do is lead in love, right? And I meet a lot of people and I always give out good energy. From the moment I meet you, it's like, I felt like doing that has got me indoors that I probably shouldn't have been in. And I think that's synonymous with Uncle Nearest, right? And we talk about Fawn Weaver and how she's gotten indoors that people probably think that she shouldn't be in. How has Uncle Nearest gotten indoors that you think he shouldn't have been in, be getting in with Jack Daniels and making bourbon and stuff like that?
Well, it's just a commitment to excellence. I continue to be impressed by NGD, that's the Nearest Green Distillery, and the leadership team. They've won now over 600, probably over 700 awards for the whiskey they make. This is a company that started selling whiskey in 2017. So we're just over 6 years old, and there's no sign of stopping because of this continual commitment to excellence. There's a mantra at the distillery, there's several, but one of them is keep pounding. And it comes from, this notion comes from the Italian story of an Italian sculptor. You know, the San Antonio Spurs uses the concept, and so do the Charlotte Panthers. But it comes from this story of this Italian sculptor and his patrons watching him as he makes a piece of art. And he's got his hammer and his chisel, and he's making these beautiful sculptures. And one of the patrons asks, "How do you do this? When you see the stone that we bought for you, do you see the image in it? Do you see the object in there?" He says, "I don't. I chip away at the stone and just keep pounding until the image emerges." And what happens with the Uncle Nearest Distillery, NGD, they just keep making whiskey until excellence emerges. And it shows. I mean, the symptoms, the output is there. The awards are there. Victoria Edie Butler, fifth generation descendant of Uncle Nearest, is the only person to ever win Master Blender of the Year 2 years in a row, back to back.
Wow.
It's just an amazing organization.
That's awesome.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of like piggybacking off of what y'all was saying, what I'm noticing, what we talking about is more so like experience. It's like in this experience, what we experiencing right now, will cause us to always remember what we tasting, and always remember the situation that we got going on. So this is Groom Cave, and I know a lot of guys tend to do things specifically for a reason, like you say, purpose. Most of us, when we go through trying to choose, we identify what we want. We find a purpose on why we want it. Yep. So I got a question for y'all to kind of like spice it up a little bit, you know? Most men do what we do for women. Most men do what we do for money, and the money will lead us to power. So if we are drinking this stuff, as far as in bourbon, which one would you consider the one that you would give away to kind of like show some form of like, I'm here now, I got some power to me?
No, that's a great question. It's a very interesting question. I'll let you go first.
I think I would go with the rye. I think it's unique, it's different, it stands alone. And that's like how I see myself, you know what I mean? I'm unique, I'm different, I'm a standalone. So I would probably go with the rye as like, this is my status bottle right here. Yeah. And it's a beautiful bottle, so yeah.
What about you?
I think my answer is a reflection of my perspective that we're all very different, and that I want the other person to feel good about what they're doing. And if I'm part of that process, then they'll care about me, right? So I want to make them feel good. I want to make them feel like they've made good decisions, and that they're having a great time. So, but I'd probably ask a few questions. If they had no idea what they wanted to do, I start them up with the lower proof, the 93, because I know a lot of people like the 56, which is 100 proof. But instead of especially if they're new to whiskey, instead of jumping them into the 100 proof pool, I start them with the 93, let their taste buds get deadened a little bit. Then we'll give them some amazing flavor with the 56 or the straight rye, which is 100 proof. Just walk them into it. I'll scale them up.
I'm taking them straight for a ride. Let's get on this. Let's get on this ride. Let's take them straight for a ride. So let's go ahead and introduce the 56.
The 56. So in 1856, Uncle Nearest and Jasper Daniel perfect the Lincoln County process. Happens, and what that is after the whiskey is made, it is then filtered for a few days. It literally filters through sugar, maple, charcoal. That's the Lincoln County process, with all the other definitions of bourbon, because it's a subtractive process. Can't add anything to bourbon. No color, no flavorings, no scents or anything like that. What you're drinking is a 100% natural product, right? At the Nearest Green Distillery, there are a couple more steps that they do after they filter through the sugar, maple, charcoal. There's something called diatomous earth, D-I-A-T-E-M-O-U-S. That might be an I after diatomous. I forget. It's diatomous earth. And this is basically crushed up silica. This is seashells and whatnot. A lot of times people use it in a garden. And what happens is, after the sugar, maple, charcoal drip process, it drops through this diatomous earth, changing the flavor a little bit more, and then it drips through charred coconut shells, changing the flavor a little bit more, softening it some. So what you're getting in your glass right now is something that has been through that process, still coming out at 100 proof, an amazing bottle. Cheers to Kith and Kin. Cheers. Mm-hmm. Nose.
Oh yeah, I'm skipping steps. I'm ready to get to it.
Yeah, I was about to do the same thing.
I did that a few minutes ago too.
That one has a little bit more of a bark to it, but I like it. Yeah, it's smooth.
I like this one.
What do you think about the finish on that? The long, short sensations you're getting?
It's long, yeah. I can still feel it, I still taste it, yeah. And it's like, I think it's just like like we talked about earlier, our first experiences, right? It's a long-lasting effect. It's something that we'll remember. Now, I might not remember my first experience with bourbon, but I'll remember it in this aspect as I'm learning, as I'm enjoying it with gentlemen that know their stuff and have something to add value to. So, it's definitely gonna be something that sticks with you for a long time.
I agree. I think that we can control the experience that we give off. I always tell people, be intentional about what it is that you're doing, because then it goes back into what you're saying, 100% proof you being authentically yourself.
Mm-hmm. Keeping it 100, right?
Right, keeping it 100.
Sure. Yeah.
You feel me? So if I'm being authentically myself, I'm gonna give you the best experience that you're gonna get with me and me only.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I always tell people, control the experience. Give them a great experience, because they'll remember it.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And we'll go enjoy this off camera. But gentlemen, I want to thank you all for today. Thank you for the insight, David. Appreciate it a lot. As I said, we'll go enjoy that ride off camera, and then I appreciate you, my brother, always, man. Thank you all so much. And cheers again, man.
Cheers.